Okay. This started at the NAIA Show Directors Conference that Les Sleznick gave a presentation on booths.
Hmm.
And
How long ago was this?
um, it was
Like
the one,
years?
I think it was in Peoria. I'm not sure because I
Be
remember going to it.
Before COVID, you mean? Or
Oh, yeah, yeah, long before COVID.
okay. Oh, I see. Okay, okay.
Okay, and this started back around 2013
Hmm.
or maybe 2009, where
Okay.
Les made a presentation explaining why you should show three walls of a booth in the booth picture.
Hmm.
And then the booth had to be exactly the way it was going to be set up at a show.
Okay.
And some of the show directors took him literally, and some of them didn't.
Hmm.
I remember Belleville. 2 weeks before the show, Belleville made an announcement that your booth picture had to be exactly what you were going to show up with, even though you
Okay.
had applied like 8 months earlier.
Okay.
And it became a nightmare for people.
Sure.
And this was all because of Les.
Ah,
And that is
well,
when they started defining what they wanted for a booth picture, and everybody wants something different.
right. I mean, what I understand is the booth image is supposed to be a
Exactly.
representation of how you're going to
Representative.
present, right? But it also can clue people in. For example, if your jury images are photographs of landscapes and your booth image has photographs of portraits,
Right.
for,
That's
right,
not what you're going to be showing at the show.
right. And so that would also be kind of a red flag,
Right.
as I understand. Yeah.
But Les's point, he wanted to see three walls of the booth so you didn't have a table with buy sell on it hidden away.
Yeah, I understand.
What about a booth with a French wall?
Okay.
And the reason why I asked that is because the last mock jury that Marianne did, and it was last year's St. Louis mock jury. Was it St. Louis? Or was it written down? Anyway, it was one of the bigger ones. And what happened was one of the jurors on it said that why why isn't no, the question to Marianne was no, the question to the group after looking at her booth, which was just three walls, no French door, no back wall, no nothing, just three walls. She said, well, where do you wrap up your paintings when a customer buys something? Where do you wrap your thing? And I
Right.
was and I was like, wait a minute, what? Because after reading, I mean, dozens of posts, it was our understanding that you want your booth shot to look like it's going to be at the show, kind of a gallery presentation.
Hmm.
And that's what we did. But it was weird because that lady said, like, because they went back and forth about, well, there should be a French wall because, you're going to wrap your
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
behind the
yeah.
French wall and blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
There's
Hmm.
the problem is there's two different booths. There's the booth you set up and take a picture of, and then there's the booth you set up and sell out of.
Why can't they be the same one?
Well, they can be, but there's no, but if you don't have if you don't have a French wall in your booth picture, why should you be penalized if you have a French wall when you get to the show to have your packing material and backstock?
I think the issue is there's no standard.
That's right.
When we used to apply with slides, one show wanted the red dot on the left upper hand corner, another one wanted it on the right lower hand corner. So you had to buy the slide holders and replace your slides, right? I mean,
Well,
and
no, the
now
red
Zap,
dot always had to be the bottom left corner so it would show up in the groove. Otherwise, you couldn't see it.
well, I'm telling you that I have a lot of slides with dots in different corners. And
Yeah.
um
Did you have a red dot on the back of your van?
back of my what?
Van
Well, I
on
don't have a
on the
van, so
bottom
there's that.
left-hand corner in the back of your
Right,
van.
right.
I used to.
But yeah, that's pretty funny. But so, the point is that Zap standardized the application process, even though there's variations with each application. But with the booth shot, I I understand the purpose, and except we don't know if all the shows have the same purpose. So, um, you know, and by the way, my booth shot for decades has always been a corner image. And I know they
Right.
want three sides, but you
Yeah,
know,
but if
I
you have a corner booth, you only have two sides.
well,
But
but
you
also
can
I think it
still see
presents
the whole canopy.
right, right. I do think it presents better as a jeweler because you could actually see inside my cases, especially with that zoom on Zap. You could zoom in, and so I that should be important too. But in any case, so it's always this, our jury images. It's like, okay, this is my work, and this is the four pieces that tell the story, and so forth. But it's the booth image that is always kind of a shrug of shoulders, right? Because we're
Yeah,
guessing.
and the booth images can kick you out of a show even if you have great jury images.
Right,
So
right. I well,
here's the solution.
okay.
Do not score the booth picture.
Ah,
Just check to see that it's representative when you get to the show.
right,
Well, different
right.
different jurors put different,
But this is
so
has to be in the instructions.
Yeah.
Fort Worth
even
gives the
then
jurors instructions not to score the booth picture.
even
Mhm.
then it's still personal preference up to the juror. Because I've talked to jurors that say, we're told that the booth shot's supposed to be worth this much, and that I don't give it that much, or I give it more.
No. Remember,
Hmm.
what do you call it? Long's Park used to say it was 30% of the score.
Oh, wow, that's huge.
Yeah, but actually, when it comes down to it, it's 100% of the score because it could knock you out.
Hmm.
So
Um, you
anyway,
know, then there's the issue, and this is sort of a tangent, but there are some people who have amazing work, and they show a terrible booth image, maybe because they don't know, they're newer to the field and all of that. And I know that shows can't, with 800 people applying, they can't say, "Oh, we love your work, but we want you to change your booth," and
actually, the better shows do that. They go
do they?
through the applications as they come in.
Oh, okay. That's because sometimes people just don't know. I mean, um, but that's nice if that happens because,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
how many times I remember getting slides to scan
hmm,
back in 2004 when I was scanning slides for everybody
hmm.
who had his information printed upside down on the slide mount. So
Ah,
so the slides were going in the carousel trays upside down, and nobody ever told him his artwork was upside down.
oh, wow. Wow.
So
Yeah.
the show director needs to take some kind of responsibility.
Hmm.
It's interesting. We applied. This is going back, I think, 2 years ago. We applied to Fort Clinton, and we we were waitlisted, and then we changed our. I don't know how it happened. Either they contacted us or we contacted them. And I think we contacted them and said, "Hey, we've updated our booth shop. Can we resubmit our booth shop even though the show was closed? The jurying was closed and we were on the wait list." And they said yes. So we resubmitted a booth shot, and they loved it, and that got us in, which is really odd.
That was very nice of them too.
That was really nice of them, and so um, and now we're on the wait list again. But yeah, that was really nice of them.
I mean, that's the thing. Some of it is just random. Um, you could use the same booth shot, get in one year and not get in the next year. So it's, I think, important to remember, all things being equal, there are a lot of really good people applying to shows, and there's not space for everyone. And
Right,
so, yeah.
Cord, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You, did I hear you one time say that you submit the same boot shot? Basically, a couple of years in a row.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, see, that's what one thing that we have not done, but I think we're going to do that this year. We're just going to stick with one boot shot and see if it if it lands, because I've shot so many dang boot shots.
If
You know, you just don't know what's good, what's going to go.
Well, and then one year it could be good, and the next year you have too few images or too many images, right? I mean, in your booth, say, for example. I mean, so again, there's that randomness with all things being equal. It is the juror. What if the juror doesn't like a lot of color, or they do like a lot of color? So there are some arbitrary things that are also, a circumstance that we have to deal with,
Yep.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I remember we did a boot shot, and we had maybe six, seven paintings in it. Three walls, just seven pieces of art. And we got into several shows with that, and then we kind of
Mhm.
changed it up, and we added we did, completely different boot shot with more artwork, kind of a variety, and we haven't hit on it except for a couple of shows this year.
Hey, I'm gonna be Allison, your husband uses a Nikon, right?
Yes.
The D850 is down under $1,800 now.
Well, he bought
Wow.
the whatever the newest one was. It was on
The
sale
the
because
D850,
I think so, because they're stopping
right,
making those, right? Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I
Yeah.
just bought another one last night just to put
Ah,
away on a shelf.
got it. Well, it was what last year that he bought it, and he had to buy the lights, which all,
Right.
blew up. Yeah. So,
Yeah, $1,800 is an incredible price for that camera.
That's amazing.
right. But we can't spend that,
Yeah, I know.
unfortunately.
I know.
Yeah.
It comes with a free version of Corel Paint Shop Pro.
Hmm.
I wonder, I'm gonna post on the Facebook groups if anybody wants it. I think it's only for Windows.
Oh,
It comes free with it.
Locks me out. I'm a Mackie. Court, did you do a show this past weekend?
not I did Brookside 2 weeks ago.
Okay, 2 weeks ago. Okay,
Well,
Allison, how about you?
Um, I did Cottonwood 2 weeks ago, the same weekend as Brookside. And I had been doing Brookside for quite a while, so I thought I'd try something else. And so um yeah, and now I don't really have anything. I'm on the wait list. I mean, I did my local artist market this Saturday, and it was all right. I mean, a lot people are in town now, so that's pretty good. And
That's nice.
yeah, yeah. It's the hardest part is just waking up for me, but the rest of it's very easy. And so I'm doing one every Saturday through the rest of May and June.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we'll see how that adds up.
Marianne got into Cherokee Triangle in Louisville, and the crowd was amazing. I mean, it was busy both days. Setup was a little in the rainy side.
Mhm.
Saturday was a kind of a cold day, but then the sun came out. But there were a lot of people, not a lot of art moving, but
Uh-huh.
it's funny because we did St. James back in October, and um, we had a couple come by. They loved the piece. We took it to their house. Um, they they really liked it, and they asked Marianne if she could do two more pieces to match it because they wanted kind of like a triptych. Um, and she said yes, we could do that. So we went home, and then they contacted her and said, you know what, we're going to do a mural because it's a big wall. It was a huge wall, and Marianne was like, okay, that's fine. So when I sent out my email saying we're going to be at Louisville, they came back out. They bought the piece that we brought to their house and commissioned her for the other two pieces. And so that was really just crazy because, you know, we didn't even recognize them until we were sitting there. You really looked familiar. You know, Marianne kind of remembered who they were. And but they said that they actually contacted an artist who was supposed to do the mural,
Mhm.
and she never showed up.
Wow. See,
Never showed up.
all things being equal, and I've used that before, but part part of I think how we can compete in this world is by showing up, by being on time, all those basic things. That's amazing. I mean, and and sometimes it's not convenient for us, but it doesn't matter, right? So
Absolutely.
congratulations.
Yeah,
That's
I'm so
fantastic.
excited for it. Yeah. And but we just kind of said, if you need anything, let us know. And so it was a good thing that, they were on our email list, and we had some other folks come out and say hi. We had dinner with some folks that we've seen a couple of years in a row, and that was really a blessing. So yeah, but you're right. You kind of that's one thing I always taught my kids. I said, you got to be on time. You got to work a little harder than the other guy because there's always somebody else who's going to replace you, and they'll
That's
pay them
right.
cheaper. They'll pay them less money because they'll work harder than you. And so that was a sweet gift. Now Marianne's working on. Um, she's got a 7-day show with Spoleto
Wow.
Memorial Day weekend. So it's going to be Memorial Day weekend till June 7th, 6th, 7th.
Mm,
Yeah,
that's a marathon.
it is. Yeah. Last year it was a $20,000 show for her last year.
Uh,
That was
that's great.
that was a miracle. We didn't think because so you got Memorial Day weekend. Memorial Day is Monday. Tuesday you have some stragglers, but by Wednesday, I mean she's literally sitting Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in the booth, and if she's lucky, she sees maybe 5 people. And just sitting down there, and there's just hardly anybody, perusing. And you get some stragglers, but it really paid off for her last year. We were really amazed.
Oh,
Well,
Barry, we had a serious booth discussion.
What was
What do you say,
serious
Barry?
about it?
I should have ordered paper a few days ago.
Uh-oh.
What was why?
Well, when I looked at the price, it's been within the last 5 days. I looked at the price of a roll of paper and it was $240,
What is it now?
$260. Not terrible, but still $20.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's not too bad. I thought you were going to say $400.
Well, I'm kind
Comes
of
from
happy because
China, it could be.
I expect it to be over three. Well, the time they throw in $15 in shipping and $20 in tax, it gets pretty close to 300. I was afraid it was going to be over 300 to begin with.
Yeah,
Is that for your Epson printer? You got an Epson or a Canon?
Epson, doesn't matter. It's a Hahnemühle photo rag.
Oh yeah, okay.
And I probably need to go buy some ink too, since I had a clog and blew through a bunch of ink trying to get head unclogged.
We've been very lucky. Our printer, he's a photographer. He shoots a Canon Z or something. I don't know what it is. No, the Nikon Z. And he does all of Marianne's photography for our website, and he prints for us, and his prices have not changed. I'm sure they will this in the summertime, but his prices have not changed for 2 years. So that's been a blessing for us.
yeah, but wait until he has to restock.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's when it'll
Exactly.
kick in. Yeah.
That's right. Yep.
Maybe,
We're prepared. Yeah. Yep. Maybe. Yep.
maybe not.
That's right.
Hard to tell.
But Gary, did you do a show this weekend?
I'm not talking about shows.
Okay.
The problem I have is that Epson doesn't really care about their printers. They want to sell you ink. That's all they care about is selling ink.
Really?
And
Okay.
so in my case, where I use a third-party ink because Epson doesn't make anything that comes close to the quality of what this ink does for black and white, Epson's now made it impossible to put anything other than Epson ink in their printers.
Just like
Well,
HP.
that's nice. Ugh.
Now, in every other country, in almost every other country in the world, Epson is legally not allowed to do that.
No
I
kidding.
believe it's only in North America that they're allowed to use the system they use that forces you to use the Epson ink.
Kind of like the Microsoft court case, right? Of monopoly, or I forget what they call that, but didn't Microsoft lose that case in like 1997 or something like that? Where they're forcing you to use, no, they were building their product into the computers, whatever, but it sounds similar to what you're talking about. Like the Europeans and everything, they're much more strict about those kinds of things, I think, like Epson
It's
requiring that
It's the same thing with the charging socket on your iPhone.
yes.
Yep.
Right? Okay, and I just have a really quick question about this that has like nothing to do with anything else because it came up today, but with all of these tech companies like Google, Microsoft, Meta, and Apple, if you go to like if they ask you for identity authentication, whatever it's called,
Authenticity.
or something authentication that you have to prove your identity. So they like will
You mean
send you.
do you mean two-step authentication?
Yeah, I think that's yes,
Yep.
exactly, Allison.
Comes highly
So
recommended.
like,
I would you
oh yeah, okay, but they put them all together, like they're all collaborating, all of these big corporations. So if you forget your Gmail password, Apple will send you the temporary code. You see what I mean? They're all collaborating.
Yeah, okay.
nobody's collaborating.
Now, what
It's a
you need to
security
do,
thing. God,
wait, what you need to do is create a text file on your
I might
computer.
have to leave.
Oh, Barry, come on, dude, man. I didn't do anything wrong. Okay, I said the wrong word.
No, just
So
Wait,
no. Here's what I'm talking about. Learn about what you're talking about before you
that's why
actually talk about it.
that's why we're discussing it here because she doesn't know and she wants
You
to
read it.
ask.
Look
I
at
can't learn about these 4 mega
It's
corporations.
it's
it's
difficult.
first of all, they're not all together. And you
wait.
know what?
It's
Your
difficult to
bank, your
understand.
bank.
It's
I'm
difficult
Actually,
to
I've
sorry.
been writing about.
understand.
I'm sorry
Okay,
if I'm ignorant. I expect to be corrected
Wait,
with knowledge if you have it.
I've
okay,
been
wait a
writing.
second.
I've been
Wait a
writing
second.
about this stuff I
create
started
a
to write about
text.
this stuff on Art Fair Review, and I wrote this whole thing about
Yeah, somebody getting their
what,
pin.
what did I write about?
Right.
I've
What
already
do you
forgotten
call it?
what I wrote
SIM
Her
about
card.
because
SIM
I'm
card. Her
senile. I'm
SIM
getting
card.
senile. I can't remember what I had for lunch.
Yeah,
It
So I wrote
it was
about
a SIM
uh,
card.
SIM card.
yeah, but there was an aspect of it. Oh, um, uh, a um, a password manager. I wrote this whole thing about password manager, and that's one of the things that you do.
Well,
I'm about to explain all the definitions because, like, what does lock your SIM card mean? Does anybody here know?
yes, I do, and I only learned it from the person who posted on Art for Review, and then Eric went on to Verizon, and he locked it. He also locked the numbers. So if somebody wants to change the phone number to a different phone, they
That's
can't do it.
that's what it is.
Yeah, but those are
Because what they do
virtual.
is they go to your provider and say, I bought a new phone and this is my new number, and they just give it to you. And then
Yeah,
once you get that, then they can take your email address, they change the passwords, you take your email address, get into your bank account, do all this stuff. So
what?
when you
Right.
Those
lock
are,
the SIM card, all you're doing is saying are telling them that they don't have a permission to do that, that they have to contact you to be able to do that. And of
They
course,
don't tell,
you're already locked it, so they can't get in. It's just another
but the
security
phone
thing.
companies don't tell you that you need to do this.
As far as authentication goes, there's an app. It's Google. There's a bunch of them, but the one is Google Authentication. And basically, instead of having to go through the rigmarole every single time you access one of your apps with a name and password, um, so you type in your name and password, and and you've already been pre-approved in your app. I use Google Authentication, so it's actually the secondary uh, um, password, secondary level of being get in, or the second thing. And now they're talking about using three, having a third one, because these scammers, they can do anything. And
I want
uh,
to add something to this though, with the
sure.
two-step authentication, you need them to go to different places. They can't just all go to your phone because if somebody stole your SIM card, and I think they do it virtually, then you need uh like all of the authentication can't just go to one source, is what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I
it-
can't address that. But listen, if it like my bank account, when I type
Right,
in my name and password for my bank account, it says, "Okay, we're going to send you a six-digit code to your
right.
email, to the email that you gave them. You're the bank, and then you type that in, and you can't get into your bank unless that's the secondary thing. That's you know."
But please just listen to what I'm saying here. Um, your two let's say two-part authentication
Two
should
factor,
should
two
be
factor.
like your two-factor, thank you, should be an email and a phone number, two different types of things. That's part of the point. That's important. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Well, you can do it because they give you
Right,
an option.
right. So I'm just saying people need to be careful that it's not all just going to say a phone number, for
I always
example.
do mine as a text because I don't want to, I don't need the, because
But
it's
the
your phone.
point is,
That's right. You know what you just said? That's exactly
yeah,
what I do. I just realized a text is your phone number. So
right. So your phone, but it also went to your email. If it's the two parts,
yeah,
they
first
should go
it's
to two different
email.
places.
Yes. And now now some of them are asking for a third one. I have to explore that. I'm writing all these things. Hey, Janine, I'm trying to write all these definitions. I started before I went to my waste of time show that I just did. Um, and so I'm going to get back to, I almost started today, but I got distracted by a friend of mine that called me, and I got it to, even though I said, let's not talk politics. And of course, that's all we did. And then it became 10 after 4, and I went, oh, shit, I got to go. So, but I'm actually writing all these definitions because like what did this stuff mean?
Right.
I kind of know what this stuff means, so I'm trying to
But
define
but
it.
the phone companies are not like for my credit cards, I get emails saying beware of scams, da da da, and they tell you how. But the phone companies
Okay.
don't
Right,
seem
and
to be doing
click here to check to see if your account is secure.
well, obviously
Carla,
you don't, but
listen, Carla
Well,
Banks has left out something. She got scammed. First of all, stealing your SIM card it's like so small. It's such a small percentage. It's really hard to do. It isn't easy. So so she's leaving something out. And what I don't know what it she doesn't know what she left out, but I suspect that that when they asked for uh the code, there's there's a thing called social engineering. Do you guys know what that is?
Yep.
It's where you impersonate a friend or you're friendly and you get them you call somebody and you get them to tell you information. So
uh,
so that's a possibility. And somebody the code went to her or went to somebody and it got sent and they repeated the code to the person and that person used the code to get in and then immediately changed their email and then took everything. They were able to because they locked them out. So and
mhm.
it you know and
but
this
that
is
was
what
it.
they
Wasn't
do.
that a virtual SIM card?
Yes, I believe so.
Right, because I have an actual SIM card in my phone.
Well,
Oh,
everybody does, but they're
No, they
also
don't. No,
there's
no,
a
the newer versions.
really.
no. Yeah, they're all virtual now.
But you know what? Apple is pretty secure.
Hey,
If you
It's
recall, when the Boston Marathon bomber, they got his phone, okay,
yeah.
and they couldn't. The
Unlock it.
government wanted to get into the phone, and Apple wouldn't let them, get into it. They wouldn't give them the information. So apparently, it's really hard to do. It's really hard to do. So there's something she's leaving out that she did that, But I can tell you, don't don't ever, ever, ever click on a link in an email or a text
No.
that somebody
But the
sends you.
takeaway,
Ever.
the takeaway, the takeaway here is to contact your phone provider and find out what you need to do to protect yourself. And so, um,
That's where locking
locking,
your phone, your
right.
SIM card, that's where that comes in because they can't do it. They can't just go ahead and give it out. Somebody has to contact you and you have to give it permission or you have to unlock the locked
Mhm.
SIM card. They're not locking it so you can't use the phone. They're locking it uh, so that you can't that nobody can change it, the number without your permission or getting a
Right,
second
right.
number, you know. Yeah. But listen, it happened to her, but it does not happen. It's so small. I mean, I talked to experts after this. I wanted to know what the deal was, and it's so small a percentage. It's hardly anybody. The problem is that I think for the first, like the last 10 years is like less than 20. And in the past, I don't know, year, there's like a bunch of them, and basically they're based in Europe, somewhere, and it's organized groups, and these international police. I mean, they go after them, and because let me tell you something, it was really easy. Why go after Carla Banks? Go after some millionaires, billionaires in this country. Take some real money.
Hmm.
So I don't know how it happened, but I know how it happened when I got my Facebook account stolen. Somebody impersonated a friend of mine, and I gave them the code because, well, they said they got locked out of theirs. They gave me this thing, and the whole time I'm thinking, well, how come she's calling me? But I was eager. Listen, I was at a show. I was somewhere. I was really eager to help my friend because I really liked her a lot. And I said, "Oh yeah, I'll help you. I'll do the code." Well, it was scammers, and she had already gotten scammed, and I didn't know that. And then I lost my Facebook account, and I'm like, what happens is there's a whole industry on the
Hmm.
black market of selling stolen Facebook accounts. And is one of the worst. They have no groups. They don't have a whole section of people working on this or helping you out. You can't do shit. You can't call them. Try and find a phone number for Facebook. I mean, they're the worst. And
Hmm.
when I con I had one of my friends try to help me. I have friends in the computer industry, and he doesn't have a Facebook. He never had a Facebook account, and he goes, I can't believe that they don't, he didn't couldn't believe that they don't have people there working on this or helping you out. It's absurd.
Well, I
But
think
I
we could
I
expect more of it with consumer protection going away.
Well,
Hey,
listen, whatever they have, it's easy for them to figure out how to get around it. I mean, look
But
at
they don't have to though.
they
okay.
have these hacking these have there's these hacking conventions where people that are hackers go to the convention and they hack what's going on? Anyway, they hack.
I
Uh,
Janine wants me to share her booth picture.
It's fine.
eh,
It's
w-
good.
can I just ask a question? Janine, what was your original question then? Was that what it was related to?
It looks good.
Oh, you're muted, Janine. There.
Thanks, Gary. Thank you. It's totally new. It's totally different from everything else that everybody criticized me for.
Yeah.
Shitty booth shot. Your work is fantastic. We hate your booth shot. Okay, so I did totally new work, totally different booth shot. So why? I come here and I just ask for some feedback. Okay, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You know why? Because the judges are incompetent. The directors they start, every time they hire somebody new, they're incompetent. You know what? They hire event
It looks
planners.
great.
Huh?
Yeah.
I think it looks great. Professional. You
I
could,
know.
I mean,
That's what I
just
said, like right away,
I like it.
You couldn't improve on it.
Yeah, you could. There's one thing.
Uh,
The back left corner, if you take a piece of black fabric and clip it so you can't see through between the two walls.
yeah, that doesn't
oh,
bother me.
And you cover the orange and the orange uh
The
Yeah,
wheel?
yeah,
ratchet
I
strap
didn't.
and the
Yeah, right. Exactly. I will do that. The wheels on the multi-cart and the straps. I haven't processed it or done anything to it. I just took this photo at Rittenhouse last week
Oh,
because,
it's really good.
well, thank you. Thank you
Did
very
you
much.
do good at Rittenhouse? I
I
talked to people
did.
that did really well.
I did. Okay. Okay. So we had this thing last week about what I should price that big one on the left, the landscape of Antarctica, which I sold. Okay. It was the first time I printed it, first time I hung it, and I sold it. I'm not bragging, but I was like, we had this whole thing last week about pricing. And I said I wanted to price it 4,500 because they're going to negotiate with you because they think it's a souk in Marrakesh and that they can just like do whatever they want to say. I'm going to give you $1 for this. Seriously, it's so insulting. You all know it. I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
Yeah.
It's always insulting. Okay. So I have to factor that in, period. Rarely, when I have a big piece like that, am I going to get the price that I name. When I do, it's a joy, as you know, and like you respect the people, right? And they respect you. And that's beautiful. Okay. So anyway, I didn't price it at 4,500 because Oscar was like, no, that is so okay. I have a couple.
Yeah. I
So I
don't
didn't.
I
So I
don't
didn't.
understand why he was whining.
Well, no, that's not true. It's because I have a few questions right now. Okay. And just let me ask them first before people talk, just because so I get them out, because it's not easy for me sometimes to articulate things. So the first question was what to price it. And the other one too, on the right-hand side, the the willow branches, I was going to price the same. They're a little bit different in size, but really not, just like a couple inches. So I'm just going to do the same price. Fine. So I did 32.50. Okay, I did 32.50. So I came down from 4,500 and I did 32.50. And I had plenty of interest in both of them, plenty of interest. And I think honestly, I could have gone 4,500 or 4,000 or something and still sold them. I really do, because I had plenty of interest in them. And also the guy who bought it, who wound up buying it. Okay, so I sold it to him for 2,500. I wasn't happy about that at all. But I was like, do I want some money? Because I didn't make any money on Friday. Zero, because it was raining and there weren't that many people. On Saturday, I only sold matted pieces, no framed pieces. But if you notice, I mean, this is the thing with my new booths, I don't have any small framed pieces hanging. And that was based on, that decision was based on what you guys all told me. Bonnie, Oscar, Larry, Court, all of you were saying it's too cluttered with too many pieces, and the small ones aren't gonna sell, and it's not good. So I took all of that out. I didn't hang any of that. I didn't even bring it with me. Plus, I hadn't got my prints in time to do my 12 by 16 matted ones. So I'm like, I'm just gonna do an experiment. And I had 2 bins of the matted ones, 18 by 24, and I sold, quite a few of them. So that's what I sold on Saturday, were just those matted prints. I had 2 bins like that. So they're 18 by 24, 135 each, 2 for 250. People had no problem buying them. Zero problem. Zero problem. No complaints. Just
Well, not in
here,
not in that neighborhood.
right, exactly. I had somebody come along and buy 5. Okay. But again, okay, this is a question. I don't know how to do math. Honest to God, I can't do it in my head. I should take out my phone and do it on like a calculator, but I'm on the spot and I feel pressured to come up with a price. And so they bought 5, which should have been, okay, so 2 for 250.
675.
What should it have been?
675.
Well, if I was going to do 2 for 250, that's 500 for 4.
Okay.
635, but I said I would give him a break, so it should have been, say, 600, right? Right, yeah. But I said 500, which I gave him a piece for free, because
That's all right.
I know, because I know, you're right, Barry, I know. But I probably shouldn't have done it exactly. I should have had some money for the 5th piece, and they would have paid it. It's just that I couldn't do the math.
Yeah, you should have
So
charged. Did you charge tax?
I can't remember. No, they did Venmo. I think they did Venmo.
Yeah, but you
So it's
still
still it's
you're
still
supposed
taxable.
to collect the tax
On Venmo?
on
Of
anything.
course. Yeah, because
Yeah,
you're selling a product.
Well,
yeah.
I know, but I don't know. Some people
I
told
wouldn't worry about it.
people told me not to do that. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe
Well,
You'll
well,
have
if
to
you do
drop
that,
it out of the
if
total.
what's that?
People
What's that,
told you.
Katie?
You'll have to take it out of what you received.
I do. Right?
Okay.
I do. Right? Right? Isn't that what I do in the end of the day?
Yeah.
Right.
All
Okay.
right. This is how I look at it. It's your business. You can do whatever you want.
except
I
that if you
give
do
people
this,
deals.
excuse me, if you don't collect sales tax at a show, you can like never be invited back again.
You're
And some shows are very strict about that.
Wait a minute. If you don't charge them sales tax, it doesn't mean that you're not charging them sales tax. It's just instead of like at
You're building it
600,
in. You're
it's look at it. If it's $600, so and the tax if it's 6%, it's $36. But if you just do a straight 600, it's still 6% of whatever it was that equals 600. You're still charging them a tax. It doesn't matter whether you actually add it on or don't add it on. It's you're still charging them a tax.
Mhm.
Does
okay. Well,
everybody
okay.
get
Well,
that?
okay. Let's just put that aside for a minute. Just that aside. That was in like sidetracked what I'm trying to ask about. That's a whole other issue. Okay. So, Larry, can you put that booth shot up again just for a minute, please?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So just about the prices of the big ones. So, well, first I did raise my prices basically on all of them. So the 18 by 24s, um, which are the smaller ones, the penguins, and it's kind of out of perspective here because of the angle. But the two from Death Valley below the Antarctica and the three from Antarctica on that side are all 18 by 24 to the mat, and then add the frame, which is an inch and a half all over. And so those I had been charging $395, but I changed it to $425 because, like, even if you just calculate the rise in my mat board prices, because I use good mat board, I mean it's a lot, a lot. So I did that, and then the medium size, which is like 27 by 39 with the frame included, those I charged $950 for. Now I didn't sell them, but I had interest. And again, this is the first time I'm test driving a number of these images, okay, because it's new work. So not all of them, but all of them are more recent work than not, and some of them are pretty recent work, and some of them are brand new from January. So so there's that. And then so I priced the Antarctic bigger landscape in the back on the left, and the willow tree branches on the right was $32.50. The guy who bought it from me, it's this whole big thing, and this is what I want to ask you about. So he came in on Friday with his mother. He's young, he's a student. I find out later he's a medical student, and he's Ukrainian. But I didn't find out he was Ukrainian. Not that this should matter at all, but he let me know later that he was Ukrainian. Whatever. So they come in on Friday when it's raining and look at it, and they liked it, and he talked to me a little bit about it, and he said, my family wants to go to Antarctica. We're really interested in it. It's great that you could go, blah blah blah. Talked about it. Saturday, he walks by my booth. He didn't come in, but like he made a point of waving, and I waved back at him. And then Sunday, he writes me an email Sunday morning before I went and left to the show. And he basically was saying, I, whatchamacallit, I would like to buy your picture if you haven't sold it yet. However, I'm a poor, lowly, poor student. Yeah, exactly. Right? I'm a poor student. I'm a
Yeah.
poor student. No, listen to this story. It's like it gets better and better. I'm a poor student. Would you give me a discount? Okay. I'm like, all right. I was expecting this from anybody anyway. You know, I'm expecting this anyway. So, but I'm excited that he said he wanted to buy it. Okay. So that was like, wow, fantastic. So I was excited. So I'm like, I write him this email and I respond to him, and I talked about the ice. I talked about what was significant about it to me and how I was like happy that he recognized something in it that was meaningful to me. And so I was happy to sell it to him. But I went on for like a couple paragraphs explaining why I thought the image was significant, just like in terms of what it represented. And then I said, okay, since you're a student, I'm willing to give you a break in price. And I said 3,000. Okay, I said 3,000, coming down from 32.50. I thought, that's not bad. Anticipating again that he would want it for less, which is what happens. So, okay, so I send the email, I go to the show, my husband opened the booth, I go to the show, and then this other guy comes in like an hour later, and he had come in on Saturday with friends. And again, he's like, I'm thinking 30, 40 years old. So this is, as you guys know, this is kind of our new market. The older generation, they're maxed out on wall space and they're aging, and they are not buying at least 2D art anymore as much. And so these new people who are millennials and they have good jobs and buy houses and stuff, they're looking for art. 2D. I'm just talking 2D because that's all I know. Um, so um, what you would call it? So that's a new market. So he comes in and he walks in and he says, "Holy shit." I'm not like, I don't want to curse or anything, but that's what he said. And he was really interested in it. And I was like, okay, but then they left. It's not like he said, I want to buy it or anything. And then he came back Sunday with his mother and was ready to buy it. Okay. And I said, wow, well, I have to be fair and tell you that somebody reached out to me this morning and gave an intent to buy it. And I felt caught not knowing exactly how to handle this situation because I hadn't ever been faced with it before. I mean, it can either be first come, first serve, whoever shows up with the money. Or if I said to this guy, yes, I will give you a discount to 3,000, I would feel bad and wrong that it was wrong for me to sell it to this guy who just showed up when I already said to the guy with the email that I would sell it to him. So I said, let me email him and ask him if he's like seriously wants it for sure, to give him that opportunity because I already, um, because I already said that. And then I said to him, this guy who's in my booth, if he says no, I'm glad to sell it to you. Or if he does want it, I can make you another. That's the beauty of photography. It's not going to be one of 250. It'll be two of 250 or five of 250. And he was cool with that. But he got visibly disappointed and left, and he took my card and I was like, yeah, you can contact me for sure. And you can order off my website, everything. And I said, there's more on my website, obviously, that you can't see here. And maybe you see an image that you like better, whatever. But I stupidly didn't get his name or number. That was a mistake because I was flustered and I didn't know how to handle the situation. So so there's that whole kerfuffle. And then the guy comes back, Vladimir, he comes back and he's like, did you sell? He's like, oh, obviously you didn't sell it. And I'm like, no. He said I couldn't respond to, I was studying. I'm like, all right. And then he um he uh he offers me 2,000.
Oh, well, you started the opening bid, so he probably felt like he could continue bidding. And this is the problem I
Yep.
have with all these discounts personally. But I also want to just say to you as something to think about in the future when this happens, people always promise they're going to buy something, but until there's money down. And so, you know, if somebody wants to buy something, you can say, and if I sell it, I can send you one or something. Like I would never hold something for someone because they're just promising. And maybe you could come up with a way that you could tell them they could, if somebody else wants to buy it, I'm going to sell this out of the booth and then I can send you one whenever it is you decide. Because I find that if you tell someone, oh, they could go to your website, you're deferring the sale. And a lot of times selling is in the heat of the moment. And that second person wanted to buy it right then. So I'm just saying, use it as a learning.
Oh, totally. It's a totally learning, but I have to master this or at least know how to deal with this situation if it ever presents itself again. I guess
Which
what,
it probably will.
yeah, but
Absolutely.
really,
My rule is the first person with cash ready to hand me money gets it. I don't care
Right.
how many other people have
Yeah.
come in and said we want it. I'm gonna go whatever. The first,
Yeah.
and I tell them, I said if somebody else comes in and wants
It's
it,
gone.
it's
I
gone.
I
It's
gotta
right.
go. I gotta go. But I'll tell you something. You always take the money right there. Whatever they say doesn't mean anything. The only thing that matters is if they got the cash or the credit card or whatever, you take the money.
Well, I guess
So
I felt obligated
Now,
based on that. I'm not used to getting
The
an
only thing you're
email.
obligated to do is take the money. You
Well,
can
I
No,
know.
the only
bet
thing you're
or whatever.
obligated to do is to sell your work and always look at your work and go, you know what? There is value in what I do. And if I do something with my hands, with my craft, and I am on display at an art show, there is value there. And if these
mhm.
people don't see the value
I
in
know.
your work, they can hit the curb and keep
I
on
know.
going.
I know. And that's why I didn't want to
Because you've got some
measure.
beautiful stuff. Jen, you got some great stuff.
Thank
And you
you.
should
And
value your work.
I
And
do.
and and just like Allison said, never start with the bid. You
I
say,
know.
"Yep,
Oh,
this is $3,200," and be quiet. Don't say another word.
I
See, that's
didn't.
the thing. You put them in an uncomfortable situation. It's like when Marianne at it's funny. Marianne went up on her price on a painting that we sold at Cherokee because this couple we saw at we saw them in October. They came by. We took that painting to their house. They didn't want to buy it. So Marianne actually upped her price when we were in Cherokee. They said to her, wasn't this a little lower? And Marianne said, yeah, but I went up on prices. And then she didn't say a
Mhm.
word. And they bought it for the higher price because
Cool.
they missed their opportunity in October. And you always put them in the uncomfortable situation. You just stand there proud of your work and go, yeah, it's $3,200. Don't say a word. Well, I'd like to get it cheaper. Well, I value my work, and right now it's $3,200.
So what happened with the medical student low bid you completely?
Oh, completely. And okay, mind you, Allison, there are people in my booth. My booth is full of people. And he
Mhm.
walks in and he's talking to me in the back of the booth by the photograph. And I had quoted him $3,000 in the email. What the problem for me was the email. I'd never done with
Mhm.
that. And it was within the city that this email was coming from, and the guy was there. So that was the thing that threw me off. Whenever someone comes in the booth and they say, okay, I want to get this, will you hold it for me? And I say, I will hold it for you if you put 50% down. And that's what
Ah,
I
okay.
do. I always do that. Okay. But this was
Mhm.
a new situation that I never been confronted with before. So obviously I did not handle it well. And that's why I want to learn from it. And
Mhm.
obviously, like Court, what
I
you're saying is true, I think totally. And then I could have sold him, number two of 250. And I don't think he would have had a problem. I don't think that was the thing. It was my inability to
Do you
properly
use
respond to the situation.
do you use
and you were
Square?
What
Janine,
did you say, Court?
do you use Square for your credit card
Yeah,
payments?
yes, yes.
Okay, you can send an invoice from Square.
To
So,
him,
so
like at that moment, or
yes.
yeah, okay, okay. I've never
So
done
you can go into Square.
that. Mhm.
Um, I've done it from my computer. I haven't done it from my phone or tablet.
well, you
You can
could,
go
yeah,
into
you could do it
Square,
from your phone.
say you want to send an invoice, and send them an invoice for whatever deposit you would normally get from somebody that walked into your booth. Send them an invoice from Square and say, when you pay this, I will hold it. But until you pay this,
That's what I
it's
should
first
have.
come,
Yeah,
first serve.
yeah, that's brilliant. I didn't know that. Wait, the levels of humiliation scale up.
Well,
Okay,
you were manipulated
yeah.
completely by that.
I know, but I know. Listen to how bad it gets. So he,
Oh.
so he comes in and he's there and I'm there and there are a lot of people in my booth and I quoted him 3,000. And he's like, oh, I was studying. And okay, he's a medical student studying, and he's crying to me that he's a poor student and everything. And so then he lowballs me with 2,000. And I was
Mhm.
so shocked. I literally said to him, with everyone hearing, I didn't say it under my breath or anything. I
Mhm.
said, I would really feel bad as an artist if I sold this piece to you for $2,000. I do value my art. I do think that what I'm doing here is valuable. And this is my life. Okay. This is
Good.
my life. And I didn't say the word insult, and I probably should have, but I didn't think of it at the time. If I had, I might have, is to say that's really insulting for you to say this and do this to me and leave. I mean, I have to think of if there's going to be a time when I will do that or have to do that. I have to think about how to handle these situations. The
Well, I
one,
don't think no insult gets emotional. I would rather be businesslike about it. It's like,
Hmm.
you don't have the money, then too bad. I mean, there are plenty of
no,
things that I
okay,
want that I can't buy. So,
okay, but get this. So he says he's going to buy it, and he's like, "Well, you take 2,500." But he made me shake his hand and promise to stay in contact with him and advise his family on how best to go to Antarctica. And
I
he did this for himself to convince himself that advice that I was going to offer to him for free, he was be worth the $500. Okay, so there's that. Then he walks outside. Okay, so he's going to pay. Get this. He says, "Do you want cash?" I'm not kidding. Like he's going to take it out of his back pocket. This
cash,
poor,
geez.
this poor medical student.
Right. And then somebody else is going to see all that cash.
I mean, but no, okay. Where is he getting all this money? He's totally rich. He's hugely, hugely rich. Clearly, when my husband went to deliver it, he's like on Walnut Street, which is like the most expensive street on Rittenhouse Square. He's just a few blocks down. I got totally bamboozled by this line that he was feeding me of "I'm a poor student. I love your," just like I felt like such a fool, and it really hurt. And but I didn't want to dishonor the piece. I mean, I named it Paradise. Okay, I named it Paradise. And it meant a huge amount to me, and it still does. And I just felt like it was soiled and sullied, and that this whole thing happened. And I'm obviously not going to consult with him, obviously not, to get his $500 worth. You don't want to hear
But
the love story. You
but
don't.
also but you don't even know if he's really going to Antarctica. I mean, it might be
Right.
No,
just
I don't.
That's
That
the
could be a
BS.
thing.
total lie. Exactly.
Right.
But that's what the levels of humiliation at work. And I mean,
Jen,
and
kick,
my husband
kick,
was saying, "Just let it go. Just let it go."
Jen, exactly.
It's
Listen,
Yeah.
Janine. It's
lesson
Janine. It's
learned.
Janine.
You
Roy,
sold the piece.
Roy. It's Janine, not
Oh,
Jen.
forgive me, Janine. I'm
It's
sorry.
okay. No. It's okay. That's just my name. It's cool.
Roy,
You know
you were
what? You you sold the piece, not exactly to somebody who you really wanted to, but you've learned something from the experience, and that's what life is. Life is a bunch of lessons, and you know,
I
now
know.
you know now
I
you know how
know.
to handle this situation. When somebody comes up and says, "Oh, can you hold it for me?" No, I can't,
Well,
because somebody might walk it.
as I explained, I know how to deal with that situation in person when somebody's saying, "Well, you hold this, I'm going to walk around the show and come back." Well, then give me 50% down. I know how to do this. The thing that threw me off was the email, and like Court said,
Yeah,
solution to the
Actually,
problem.
forget the 50%. They buy it, they pay
uh,
for it, you hold it until they're ready
that's it.
to leave the show.
Right.
yeah.
Yes, that's simple.
Hmm.
That's it.
And like I said, Janine, you got great work, and it.
Well, I'm sorry. I feel good about it, like for the first time in my life. That's what hurt too. Is like I actually felt proud of it, and I mean, I've had, you have different opinions about yourself and whatever, but I really seriously felt confident and happy and proud of what I was hanging and what I was selling, and so I had no guilt feelings that I was like, I don't know.
Well, I'd like to say something about the whole discount thing. If person X buys something from you and you give a discount, and then let's say they turn out to be my friend and I bought it and I paid more for it, I'd be really pissed.
Right, right. But what do you do? Okay, Allison, what do you do? What
Consistent,
do you do
consist,
in a position like
consist.
this? You have a piece of jewelry for 32.50, and someone
Mhm.
says, "I want to pay 33,000." What do you do?
I'm going to say, well, now I'm going to say, the metals keep going up. what I'm charging you actually isn't even replacement value, so you are getting a better deal today. Or I could just raise all my prices, but it's the truth. And I, I mean, people who ask for discounts, I think, okay, I've paid for the booth, travel to the show, gas, lodging, all of that, and my materials. I have to cover my expenses, and then never mind the labor, which, that has value too. So, I when people ask for a discount, I say, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And let me show you how I make the piece. And this and that. And, I don't want to get too much into the numbers, into the thick of it, but I show them how I make the piece. And that's that. And 99% of the time, they'll buy it anyway. But you know what the thing is? It doesn't hurt to ask. And that is the mentality. And it doesn't hurt to ask. So people ask because they feel like fools not to ask. I once had a woman, I was making a custom ring, like in gold. And the woman said, well, you know, and I gave her a quote. We met in person. Then I emailed her a quote. And then she emailed me back telling me she's a litigator and this and that, and she doesn't think it's a fair price. And I emailed her and I said, um, this is a fair price. And I, made my argument. And she not only accepted it, I think she was impressed that I argued back with her. But I don't want to charge more for my pieces in order to negotiate because I hate that. I just
I do
hate that whole
too.
thing personally.
I feel like a whore. I feel slimy and I feel like a whore that I'll just take any price. I'll sell my stuff for any price or whatever, or I'll barter. It's so horrible. I hated that from the minute that I started doing art fairs. I was like, are you kidding me? This is the price. And then I got to learn that they whittle you down or something. It's really bad. So Allison, I'm glad you're saying this
Mhm.
because
But
and like I have here in Northeast Ohio, I have friends and I have, like friends who buy my work and people then who have become customers who buy like 20 or 30 or 40 pieces from me over the years. And I give them discounts because they're buying in bulk. Now look, in my booth, I have one for 60, two for 110, three for 150 of 12 by 16 matted prints. For the 18 by 24s, I have one for 135, two for 250. So already I'm advertising that I'm willing to give a discount by doing that.
ah,
Well, I am.
y-
I say if you buy
yeah.
two, buy two, get one for, all that. And
Don't advertise that. I don't advertise. I smell my small prints that I sell. There's no buy one get one. There's no buy two. They want it. I give them a discount if they buy multiples,
well, that's what I'm doing. That's what that is. But I
but
should have put that on the
I
sign.
don't tell them that up front.
Ah, good point. Great. Great, Court. Great. Thank you.
I'm
So
not.
So,
Some
so
people
by the way,
say, some people say that, they see increased sales when they offer, their $30 a piece or buy two for 50. They see increased sales. I just do, if they buy two prints, I take $5 off the total price.
that's very nice. And you don't advertise it. So when
Don't
people ask for
advertise it, and if
when
somebody comes in and maybe if somebody comes in and pisses me off, they don't get the $5 discount.
right. Well,
when
see, but
people
I've
ask me
had
for a when people ask me for a discount, I don't get insulted. I just say I'm sorry, I can't. And then I go back to talking about my work.
yeah, I know. But what I've had people court with this, one for 62 for 110, three for 150. I've had people come in and they'll like one piece, and if it's a couple people or something, and they say, "Oh, you can get three for 150," until they go and they find three. I've had that happen a number of times because they think they're getting a deal. And they love to get deals. They love that.
What I do is when I see people start looking at multiple prints, I just simply say I do discounts on multiple prints.
Okay. Okay. Good point. Good point.
Because
Good
what
point.
that does is without having it up there in signage and without me telling them that, I'm in control. I'm in total control.
Good point.
Mhm.
Good point. That's the thing I want. I want to be in total control. And I feel like they are in control. I mean, okay, so I'll get rid of, Court, do you have a son, like you have a been a prince? By the way, I love your Porsche series. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my, what I saw on Facebook from your show, it was astounding. I mean, I
Thank
hadn't seen
you.
those images. Oh my God, so unbelievable. Like really, truly, so unusual. And how, what you chose to compose, like your compositions, astounding. Really, and as
You
a
know,
collection,
I
really
just got,
good.
you just have to get really hard-hearted about stuff. That's my
Hmm.
price. And I don't get many people want to, um, not many people comment about price. Um, Occasionally, if um, they just don't, I don't know, for some reason they don't try and bargain with me. And what I do if somebody buys a large print, I've got these little, I charge $30 for them, and believe me, they've, been the majority of, accounted for the majority of my income for the last year and a half. Um, but they are 5x7 image on an 8x10 sheet. I print them three up on my 24-inch printer, real easy to do them. I have maybe I have less than $5. I've maybe $4 invested in them. So if somebody buys a bigger piece, I let them pick out a small print for free.
Okay, cool. All right.
Um,
That's nice.
All right, let me switch topics because we're out of time. And this I wanted to know from the photographers. Oscar, when we had a conversation last week, he was saying you can't, as a photographer, you can't charge more for your photography than a painter. Like a painter has to be higher cost than a photographer. And I was trying to figure out why that was. And I'm thinking, well,
Really simple, real simple, very simple.
Labor
One of a kind versus multiples.
okay,
and
okay.
labor.
Well, no, 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 not labor, Larry. No, 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 no. You ought to know not to say that. You want to calculate labor for photography? Come on.
No, it's not that.
What?
Painting a painting is different than just taking a photograph and matting it.
Well, there's a lot more that goes into taking a photograph and matting it. You have to get to where you want to go. You have to process it. There's so much. There are
I
tons.
understand that, but that's not how the public perceives it.
This is the thing that I don't care about.
Okay,
And
what Oscar was talking about was you don't want to price yourself so much higher than other photographers for the same size, or else people are going to question why.
well, my answer to that is not the value of the materials as if you're measuring by the yard, the art. And this goes back to a point that I remember from Woody Allen's film Hannah and Her Sisters, when Max
I
von
do not
Sydow,
charge my work by the yard.
exactly, this buffoon comes into his studio and he's paints portraits of his lover, small pieces, and this big stupid rock star or something with so much cash goes, "You got any big things? Really big." And yeah, it's ridiculous. And so he's so furious. He's like, "I am not selling to you at all ever. Get out of my studio. I do not sell my paintings, my drawings. They were actually drawings by the yard." And that's what I was arguing. You can't just go on material costs and whatever you're going to mark it up for you to have a living and continue to exist. But the image, the art itself should have value regardless of the materials that cost to produce it or to make it exist. So I'm like, why does a painting, and I understand the concept of it is a one-off, a painting is created in one moment and then you can make prints, but a photograph, there is no original, they're all copies in a good
No, they're
way.
not. No,
Wait,
don't
wait,
think.
wait, 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 Court,
Don't.
wait.
No, this is a big deal. Don't think that photographs are copies. Think multiple originals.
Okay, that's fine. I wrote my PhD dissertation on Walter Benjamin, who, as you probably know, wrote the seminal essay on film and photography in 1936 called The Work of Art in the Age of Its Technical Reproducibility, about photography and film, which he thought were the new media who challenged painting and were forward looking and ingenious in what they did. He didn't say, like I just did mistakenly, that they're all a copy. He didn't say that. I just didn't say it right. But what he said was they are forward looking and revolutionary because there is no hand of the master like a painting, like a Rembrandt, and there's an aura that surrounds that painting painted by Rembrandt one at a time. And it alienates the public who don't have access to it for any number of reasons. First, the church owns them, and then wealthy people own them, and then they go into museums, and everybody flocks to see the Mona Lisa, and crowds ensue. But he thought that that was not a good thing. That was not a good thing for painting to have that kind of dominance and aura, like a celebrity, like a movie star. He thought that that was he was a Marxist, and he thought that that was like alienating. So he really embraced film and photography because that aura collapsed, and you could still have really innovative, creative work be done and have it be accessible to the masses, basically, in Marxist terms, which I really appreciated because I was already doing photography in 1986 when I first read that essay and learned German in order to read him, because there were only a couple of things translated into English, but whatever. But that essay remains the one that articulates the true nature of photography and film. And I was wrong to call them copies, but they're in film days, they were negatives. So what is a negative really when you're shining light through it and processing it, and then making prints from it? You see what I'm saying? What is the nature of that product? Okay, so you're right, they're not copies. They are originals, but they're identical originals or something like that. I don't know how to exactly say it. But what my main point is, there should be no inherent superior value to a painting over a photograph if you're solely looking at the quality of the art. If someone values this art enough to pay me $4,500 for it, and a painter is charging $3,500 for an image that they appreciate and like, why is mine valued less simply because it's a photograph, other than the one original? Other than that,
Okay. You can have whatever philosophy you want. You can value it however you want. But at the end of the day, you got to sell it. And you
right.
have to deal with the buyer's perception of value.
But
And
do you think,
That's what it comes down to.
and unfortunately, paintings, most buyers most buyers believe that paintings have a higher value. Their perception is paintings have a higher value than photographs.
do you really think that most people think that? Do you really think that that people are savvy enough or have thought about this question enough, like we have, and they may or may not have?
Okay, let me put it
I have a
this way.
question. I have a question for the group. Does anyone know, are oil paintings perceived more than acrylic paintings
Probably
in value?
for some random reason, or watercolors for some random reason.
No, are they though? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess.
Oh,
Okay,
no.
It's harder because it's harder work to work with oil.
here's the way most people look at it. Okay. Most people know they can whip their phone out, hit a button, and get a picture. Okay, that's how they see photography. That's it.
Not everybody, Court. You know that who's people are buying your pictures. That's not a cell phone. Honestly,
People understand, they see, for the most part, they see photography as what they can do with their cell phone.
that's
They
not
see
see
it
it.
as easy
That's
compared
not
to
true.
learning how to paint.
That's not true. That's not true. That's not true.
Actually, think about how many, excuse me, think about how many artists think they could take their own jury images, right? And then, I mean, really, a professional photographer sees the light, understands how to manipulate the light, all of that. And, plenty of artists don't want to spend the money on the professional photographer, but, we want people to spend the money on our artwork. And
Well, think how many people walk into a abstract painter's tent and see a replica or a variation on a Jackson Pollock. How many kids have said, I can throw paint on a canvas just like Jackson Pollock did? What makes him a genius and me not? It's the same thing as with the cell phone. I could imitate Mark Rothko, just paint 3 different colors on a canvas. Really not that tough when you're talking about what the skill level is. But if you look at their trajectory as artists, they started out as figurative painters and they made their way to abstraction. Not everybody knows this, but I have people come into my booth. I had it this weekend. They walk in and they say, "This is beautiful." And they
I have it too.
I know, but they
still,
don't care if it's painting or photography. They scoop it up. And I am not charging zero for them. I'm charging a fair price. I think a fair price. It's not exorbitant, but it reflects a value of the art, regardless of what hand process got it there. I
I'm
mean,
just telling you that overall, most people see. I'm gonna distill it down even further. Most people see one-of-a-kind items as more valuable than things that can be reproduced.
why am I getting $2,500 for a piece? Why are they willing to pay that? Is that less? I mean, somebody else getting $2,500 as a painter. Oh, is it then measured by the yard? Is it this big and they get 2,500, or is it this big and they get 2,500? What's the measure of the value of the art?
perception,
Right.
it's
Exactly.
what people are willing to pay for it,
Right.
in the end. But here's the thing, you could buy some, I don't know, some designer brand that has a lot of advertising and in fashion magazines or whatever. You could buy a handbag from some designer brand and it's made in another country by people who are not getting paid very much, not artists. And then it's sold, like it might cost $20 to make and sold for, I don't know, $1,500. And that is
Yeah.
something that people are sold, the brand. And,
Absolutely. Air Jordans. How much money did Air Jordans cost? Hundreds. These hip hop artists have sneakers.
but
Thousands of dollars.
Van Gogh couldn't sell his paintings when he was alive, you
Exactly.
know?
He sold one painting.
Oh,
One.
that's right. That's right.
One painting. One. But it's bought by his brother. Okay? So,
Hmm.
okay. So it's conspicuous consumption. People want to show that they have money. So
Veblen
yes,
products.
Thorsten
Hmm.
Veblen, exactly. The theory of the leisure class. The theory
Right.
of the leisure class. If you have wealth, you want to display to the world that you have wealth because you like how people look at you as wealthy. You have part of your identity is cooked in your brain by the perception that other people have of you. So you're looking at yourself from the outside. And then if you're wealthy, you go to the Hamptons and you wear a polo sweater knotted around your neck, like this Ukrainian kid when he came up. I'm like, you are laughable. You are so transparent. The way you have bamboozled me. And I felt like a fool, but I'm just like, you're worse than me. You're worse. Okay. Because I don't do what you do. And anyway,
Well,
I mean,
look,
here's
he
what it
was a
comes down to.
shyster.
I'm giving you the perception that I've dealt with in art shows for the last 15 years as a photographer. That's what I'm telling you. That's what I've dealt with.
well, I've been doing it for 13.
So if you can get the same price as a painter for a piece, have at it. I mean,
That's not my
eventually
goal. That's not my goal, but yeah.
everybody's pricing has, everybody's work is different. Everybody's pricing is going to be different. You have to do what works for you.
Okay, you know why I said to myself 4,500 is that's how I felt in my gut what it was worth. And when I went and picked it up from my framer, I brought my dad with me to see it because my mother won't let him see my work. Okay. So I actually had my dad drive an hour and a half to meet me at my framers to show him my work. And I said, if I had $4,500, I would pay that to have this. I would. So that's how I was pricing it. What would I pay for it if I were going to buy this? And I'm not saying that to be vain, Court. I'm sure you feel that way about all of us feel that way about it. What kind of emotional attachment to have with the art that you're making such that you value it in a certain way? It's hard to put a monetary value on something, you know that. But that's how I got a gut feeling. And then Oscar said, don't do that. So I listened to him. I listened to him. I didn't go as low as he wanted me to, but I settled on what I settled on. And I don't feel bad about that. I'm going to keep that price. I'm going to East Lansing this weekend, and I only have one of those, the Willow. I'm going to keep 32.50 on it. And
Well,
then, like you say, be firm about it, you know?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if somebody asks for a discount, be proud of, like when people ask for a discount, I think, oh my God, if I sold this for less and how much did these stones cost? And then I won't have this design,
Here's the
this,
thing. I learned a long time ago in business and all the various business I've worked at. When somebody comes in to buy and the first thing they start talking about is a discount, you don't want to do business with them. That is a
Right.
massive red flag. So
You're right.
I shut it down right then. And usually what happens is they leave.
Yeah. Yeah. So you wait for your buyer. You
Yeah.
wait. Okay.
And another thing that I have found, and it took a long time to learn this, was attitude in the booth. Once anybody, it doesn't matter how you come across, but your mental attitude in your booth comes across whether you realize it or not.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that for many years.
Oh no, I know that for sure. I know. And this
So
guy knocked me off my feet because I wasn't ready for a quote of 2,000.
yeah,
I wasn't ready for that. And I couldn't just smile and be nicey nice. I had to say, I would feel really bad if I sold this to you for 2,000. I would feel really bad.
you just say no. I mean, it's real simple. No.
so
What
let,
I used back when I did do shows, if they wanted a discount, I said, I'll sell it to you wholesale if you have a business card, that sells that kind of stuff and your tax ID form. And a minimum purchase amount.
Well,
right,
I'm not gonna have that.
Well, if a gallery owner comes to you, you might give them a discount if they buy three
Got
or
it.
something.
Yeah, but the
I
discount can
only
be
had
the
one
tax.
person actually take me
well,
up on
no,
that.
if a gallery owner wants to buy, you want a relationship that will continue. Otherwise, there's no point in giving them a discount. Like in other words, to me, it's you're building a relationship if they're going to sell your work that goes on for years, not just like a one-off kind of thing. Like if I'm in a gallery and a gallery owner wants to buy a piece that I've brought to them and they get it for 50% off and we have this relationship, that's part of the deal. I have no problem with it. Um, but if they're just because they own a gallery, and I'm not doing business with them, then I don't owe them any discount.
Well, that's why I had a minimum, either pieces
Right.
or total.
Sure. Sure. And now, like as far as being able to give customers things, anytime if I have a repair, 98% of the time I don't charge for that. They'll have to ship it to me. I have to ship it back. I don't charge them for the shipping back. And, I do what I can to make good on any kind of situation. But yeah, with I've always like as far as raising prices to give a discount, I don't like that.
I've got to run.
Yeah,
Um,
we all have to run.
Well,
So-
thank you for the feedback.
See everybody later.
All
Bye.
right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.